here's what we're going to do tonight. I've got a presentation I'm going to give you, and it is actually, it's about, I think it's 11 slides, but we're going to go through how to put on a speech contest. What I do need from somebody is somebody to evaluate my speech. As Sharon says, no speech goes without getting credit for it.
Rich said that too.
So I want to get credit for this one.
Everybody said it.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this. Hopefully this won't take more than probably a half hour. Then the rest of the time we're going to spend talking about our areas, talking about the division, talking about dates that are coming up, things that are going on, so we can all be ready and kind of all on the same page. So is that everybody on board with that?
Yep.
Now, usually the nice thing about when you do a visual aid, especially when you do a PowerPoint, the key and most important thing you got to remember is that if you're using a room, to make sure that you get the key to the equipment lock so you can use the remote thing. And I forgot to. And I told the lady this morning at the front desk, I said, I'll come back before 4:30 and get it. So then I get so busy with work that I completely forgot about it. 5 o'clock I'm coming over here and go, oh, I forgot it. So I had to climb on a chair and turn that thing on. So I'll be walking over there and manually moving my slides. Hopefully that won't be too much of a distraction. But what you're here today to do is putting together a speech contest. I gave you a little handout, and it doesn't go exactly in line with this. It's kind of supplements to what I'm going to be talking about. So the very first thing, your pre-work, and what I put on here is months before. Now, the nice thing also, one thing that I did in some of the stuff that you have, Jay may even be familiar with some of this stuff because I think his wife used it when she was putting on a contest.
She's put on several.
Yeah, because somebody created a lot of this material. Now the PowerPoint I created, but somebody created a lot of the material and kind of just pulled pieces out because some of it I have on my slide. So it's really nice that somebody's already created some of that, and so you can kind of pilfer it and get that information without recreating the wheel. No sense in doing that. So your pre-work, your months before, you want to make sure you set a date. Do this as soon as possible. Now I know I have some of your dates, some of yours I do not. And now I'm getting people who are asking for them. So I need to get your dates. If you haven't already given me your date for your contest, let me know, because we are almost at the end of July. Your contest is probably going to be somewhere in the middle of September because the division contest is 10-1. And then pick a club and site to host the contest. Hopefully you've already thought about that. Maybe you've already approached them for them doing it. Start thinking about main characters. When I talk about main characters, Toastmaster, Chief Judge, and your judges, as well as your most important person. And that comes to the next one, contest chair. Now sometimes the area governor can be the contest chair and you can put it on. But what I found is really important is you get somebody else to be your contest chair and then you can give them some of the other work and you guys can divide and conquer and you can get it done a lot quicker and a lot sooner. And if you can, try to pick someone from the club you asked to host the contest. So for example, if you were hosting a contest here at my home club, here at Deluxe, you'd want to maybe find a contest chair from Deluxe. And what you do is, if you're finding that, you sell it to them, say, hey, you can earn credit in your leadership manual for this, because it's one of the things that they need to earn in your leadership manual. So you can sell them on that and get them on board with that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Should the Toastmaster and the Chief Judge all come from the host club, or can you kind of mix it up a little bit?
Yep, you mix it up, and I'll be talking about that in a little bit.
Right.
But yes, definitely. In fact, I encourage you to mix it up as much as possible. So 2 months before or earlier, so I said months before. You know, obviously we didn't get you'll have more of an opportunity to do that in the spring contest because you can already start to be thinking about your spring contest people and things like that. So with the fall one, we're kind of You're an area governor now, you've got to put on a contest. Hurry up, give us all these dates and boom, 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 get it officer training. But communicate to your clubs when the contest is so they can plan their club contest. Communicate as early as possible. Once you know that date, send it out. Keep sending reminders out to them. And ask your Toastmaster, chief judge, and judges. I've already picked my Toastmaster for my division contest. It'll be Dan Gruntner, last year's Frontier Division Governor. He'll be my division governor. I haven't decided on a chief judge yet, but I am mulling some people over. And then you need 5 judges at the area level. Pick one. What I like to do is pick one person from each of the clubs within your area, if you can do that. Then you're getting kind of equal representation in the judging area. And you should always pick a judge that, somebody who has experience, an experienced Toastmaster, maybe somebody who's judged before, done that before. You can pick some new people, but you shouldn't have all new people. You should have at least experienced Toastmasters. If you can't get people from the clubs within your area, ask other area governors or other people within the district. So, for example, if you guys were planning to be at each other's area contests, you could ask each other to be the judges. And that's kind of, then you've really got an impartial judge on your hands because you have no vested interest at all in doing that. And know that in the division contest, I will probably be asking for your help, if you're planning to attend, to do some type of role within the division government, within the division contest. Then 2 months before or earlier, try to pick your other players. Spread them out across your club, and this goes to Jay's question. Fill these roles as soon as you can. The nice thing is, fill them as soon as you can so they can't plan something else, so they can just plan your thing. In fact, when I asked Dan, he said, he rolled back to me and said, gladly do it, but I was cutting into his opportunity now to actually be a contestant in a contest because now he can't be a contestant.
See, now you're hurting my contest. Thanks.
Were you going to ask him?
Well, no, he can't be a contestant then.
Oh, that's right. And he's a member in
He's in my area, yeah.
And he's in your area too. So the he could be representing every area.
So he equally took from our club. They're from our area. So it's not
He's a president in my area.
The roles that you have, Toastmaster, chief judge, head timer, and you should always have a second timer. You should have 2 timers. In case one can't figure out how to use the timing device, you have somebody else. You should always have 2 ballot counters, a sergeant at arms, and you don't have to have just 1 sergeant at arms. If you want to have 2, you can do that. I've been to many contests where there was 2. In fact, Judy, I think the one that you were at here where you competed, we had 2 sergeant at arms. I was 1 and Marine Navy was 1. And then because it was an evaluation contest, we could have somebody in here and somebody out in the hall and we could kind of tag team. And that's definitely true coming up in the fall. You have a table topics, which will require people to be sequestered in another room. So you probably be wise to get 2 sergeant at arms for that one. And then you will want a registration table and somebody working a registration table, sitting somewhere and signing people in, making sure they get signed in. And again, still 2 months before or earlier, decide on food and costs. This is maybe something you can push off to the contest chair if you want, because they're familiar with the location, familiar with the area. It's not necessary to have food. I put on contests where I didn't have food, all I had was water for people. But you can have food, but here's my requirements, and you don't have to follow my requirements, but if you do decide on food, make it not reasonable food, but reasonable cost for your food. You want to recoup your cost on the food. So you'll want to be charging for that. And so charge no more than $5 entrance to your event. The reason why I say that is, especially for any of us, if we go to 5, 6, 7 of these, and you're paying $10 every time you go to one,
yeah.
You're paying $50 or $70 just to go to these contests. If it's $5, that's manageable. You can get by with $5. Dan Gruntner always did a good job of getting good food, and he'd charge only, I think, $3 for it. Yeah. And he had a lot of food at his place when he put on contests. And then based upon your location, you might not be able to have food. Some places might not allow you to have food in the location you're at. So then that just rules out, but then I put, in that case, at least have some water for people to use.
I know the place Alan Gregerson had his last year, you had to use the restaurant that, he had it at the Ramsey County Library in Roseville, and you had to use Dunn Brothers
Oh, really?
for the food. So you might run into that situation with certain places too.
Interesting.
Yeah, he couldn't even bring in a case of water. He had to get the water through Dunn Brothers.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
it was that picky.
And see, that's a good point. That's something to consider when you're thinking of your location. That's why what I always like to try to do with a location is get a club within my area and get that contest chair from that, because then they know all of that stuff and they know all the logistics for that. And then list your event with D6. Real easy to do. To type up what you want. You go out to the D6 website and there's a drop down for the person who posts those, and you can just send it off to them. They'll post it for you. And the sooner you get it out posted, the more excitement you'll get for your contest. And that's the same with officer training. If you have officer training coming up, make sure you get that out there as well. 1 month before, procure your trophies. Now, Judy, you checked on trophies,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, and I have pictures here that
Awesome.
we can look at. They were all different sizes and a ton of different colors, and they'll fit the price range.
Cool.
And free engraving.
Really? Wow, that's great. And so what I put on here is you can order from TI. These tend to be a little bit more expensive, plus you have to pay for shipping. But you can get them branded trophies. If you go local, you cannot have any reference to Toastmasters. So you could have like Area 21 humorous contest. You can have that on there, but you can't have Toastmasters International or anything like that. You can't brand it if you go locally. So that's one disadvantage for going locally. However, the cost, I think you can get more bang for your buck going locally. And especially if you guys all kind of order very similar ones, all through the same place, I bet you're going to get a nice deal.
Well, they're already 50% off. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I know for me, I'm excited because I don't even have to order any trophies because the district is ordering them for all the division contests. I think they want uniformity among the divisions.
What we're saying is he should be ordering our, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're on.
That's what Dan Gruntner did last year. He ordered them for everybody. Now, you do have a budget for them. I think it's, what is it, $30?
30 or
30,
40.
or is it 40?
40.
It was 30 2 years ago when I did it.
It's 40.
But it's 40 now?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go over that for your thing, it's out of your pocket. Now, how many do you need? That's the hard part to figure out. Well, if you've got 5 or more contestants, you'll need first through third for each contest. You don't have to. I mean, you could just get first and then get certificates for second and third. I really like, even if you come in second or third, getting that trophy. It's kind of nice. You know, you have first, second, third, and have them graduated in size. And if you can afford it, do that. If you've got 4, you'll need a first and second. And if you only have 3, you can only have first. And also, if you only have 3 contestants, you can really only announce the first place winner.
Yep.
But then tell the second place person afterwards that they were second, because if the first place person can't go on, second place person can put. And the reason why they do that is nobody wants to know who finished last. And no, these are not the trophies we're giving out. And 1 month before, confirm your location, time with the contestant chair. Make sure that you've got that location and time ready to go. Prepare the program. You should have a program, and in fact, I have one with me. Last fall, I was the target speaker for an evaluation contest, so I kind of hang on to all of these all the time when I get them, just to see how different people do them. The nice thing is, what I want you to do with the program is be creative. Do what you want to with them. 2 years ago when I did put on a contest in the spring, I decided, let's have a theme for our contest. So we had a theme. We also had a word of the day. Just like in Toastmaster, I'm going to pass this around, but it's just like in regular Toastmasters, we have word of the day and the theme. So I thought, why don't we have that for a contest? See if anybody at all used the word of the day when we were doing it. We didn't have to then do a formal call out or anything like that. Confirm that all players are on and aware of the time that they should arrive. Nothing's more frustrating, and here's this point, stress that they arrive early so they can be ready when the contest starts. Because as you know, if you've ever been at a contest, you know that usually 15 minutes before the start time of the contest, we have briefings. So that means the judges have to be there for the briefing and all the contestants have to be there. So they at least have to be there 15 minutes early. But get them there, try to get them there even sooner than that. Because there are some things you want to run through, especially with the contestants, and make sure you've got all of the paperwork for them. And that's this part. Gather contestant profiles and eligibility forms from the clubs. It's nice if you can get them ahead of time. And the nice thing is, if you can get them ahead of time, you can even give them to your Toastmaster ahead of time. Then they can be even prepared and also know what kind of questions they're going to answer during the interview portion. They'll already have been reading over that person's thing and everything like that. And again, stress to the contestants that they should arrive early. And this gathering the forms, you can have your contestant chair do that. I did that in my spring contest when I had it. I had my contestant chair, she gathered them all up and got them all ready, and we gave them to the Toastmaster a couple days ahead of time. And he was well prepared then for that night. So then 1 week before, what do you want to do? Touch base with all your key players again. Keep bugging them, because people forget, especially if you ask them far enough in advance. Confirm your food. If you are having food, make sure you know where you're getting it from. Make sure that you're ready to go with that. Be sure to print or pick up your program, however you want to do it. That's up to you. There is a budget for printing some of that kind of stuff within Toastmasters as well. So if you have to get that stuff printed, you can get reimbursed for some of that type of thing. Make sure you have all the contestant eligibility forms. If you don't, you may have to either contact them or have them fill it out when they come. But it's nicer if you can have it ahead of time. Because when they come, the contestant doesn't want to fill out forms. They just want to think about their speech. Send the Toastmaster the script. And you have that in your packet. There's a script towards the end of it. It was used, this was actually sent from Jay's wife, Kimberly. She sent me this script, but it was actually out there, and I kind of modified a little bit. Not much, I just changed some of the names and deleted some things that were on there and put name in where there were actual names. You don't have to technically follow the script, but it's nice to have a little feel for exactly what you want to do, because that Toastmaster, as you know, Toastmaster is the he's the one that he or she has to keep that meeting moving. So he wants to keep that contest moving. So it's important that they do that. Make sure you have all the equipment. One thing I didn't print out, for some reason wasn't printing for me, was a list of all the things you got to remember to have. And I'm going to get that to you guys. But it's things like, make sure you have your timer boxes, make sure you have timepieces, stopwatches. Don't just have 1, 2, or 3. I would suggest 3, because if you have 2 timers, each one will have one, then you should at least have an extra one in case it breaks, maybe 2 extra ones in case they both break. Make sure you have a timer box as well as timer cards. If you have a box and the lights go out, you need a card to signify it. Other equipment that you need, any other thoughts on what other equipment do you think you need for a contest?
If somebody's got visuals.
Yep, make sure your room's set for if somebody's going to have visual aids for their speech. Anything else?
Podium, if somebody wants to.
Podium.
Not everybody uses it, but some might prefer.
Correct. So you should have a podium there. You can have a gavel if that's the way you want to start the meeting. You can start it with a gavel. Does anybody know who usually starts a contest who, in typical, it doesn't matter, clubs do it differently with who starts the club meetings. In my home club, who starts a club meeting is our president. But that's not always the case in some clubs.
Sergeant at Arms in ours.
Sergeant at Arms at Jay's. And that's typically who starts a contest, is the Sergeant at Arms, one of the Sergeant at Arms. Starts the contest. Basically does a little introduction, tells people to turn off your cell phones, does a little bit of that type of thing, little housekeeping items. Then usually we'll introduce the area governor or the division governor. And then they can come up and do that. So we'll get you the list of other equipment if you think of other ones. There's a lot. There was quite a long list. You got to have all the forms. You got to make sure you have the timer forms. You got to make sure you have all the judges' forms. You have to make sure you have the sign-in sheet for people. You have to make sure that if you are charging, you should have change, in case you have to make change for people.
Participation certificates.
Participation certificates. Make sure you have your trophies ready. You'd hate to get there that day and go, oh, I forgot my trophies. We'll get you those later on. Day of the event. Be sure your location is set and ready to go. You don't want any surprises. I don't know if you were at the spring contest last year. Judy, this was at Rat Pack, right? Remember Dan was telling the story that he was, in awe because you guys turned that area into how big you had it. Because you opened up the.
Hyper and I
he was.
Don't worry about it.
He was, and that's what he was talking about is don't worry about it. And if you put your thing in good hands, you won't even have to worry about it. You won't have to worry. No surprises, and that's why Dan had it in.
Although it was warm.
It was, but it still was. It was fine. Worked out well. Go over your last minute details, making sure everything is ready. Pick up food just before the event. And then, event time. Be at the door to greet everyone. Do you recognize this?
That's ridiculous.
Now look at it. He's got a trophy. And did you know he wasn't even going to participate in this contest?
I'm going to point out that you're having me evaluate
Oh,
the visual.
can somebody else evaluate?
Easy.
Be at the door to greet everyone who comes. Sometimes, if you're in a secure building like here, we had to have people out there to bring people in all the time. Make sure that the judge's briefing and contestant briefings start on time, because sometimes they can be lengthy. Because as a Toastmaster at a contest, you need to make sure you go through every contestant and make sure that you understand exactly what they need up front. Make sure that the layout is exactly how they want it. If they have props, make sure that they don't, make sure their props are laid out correctly the way they want them, because in a contest, if they go and grab a bag and start laying out their props, the timer starts. The timer doesn't start when they speak. The timer starts when they make a speech type of move, and that would be a speech type of move. So you could then go long, and that contestant could lose out. So it's really up to that, not up to you, but up to that Sergeant at Arms to understand, and that's why the Toastmaster on those briefing areas, it's very important that they start on time so you can get it all in and all that type of information in. And make sure that during that briefing time also that your Toastmaster knows how to pronounce all the names of the people that are participating. And then you have a role, if you are an area governor or a division governor, you have a role. You get to introduce the Toastmaster. You also get to acknowledge dignitaries. Usually that's saved for at the end. And then you can thank helpers and you can hand out trophies. That's why I put this up here, because it was one that I had. I was actually going to bring some trophies that I had. Now, acknowledging dignitaries, I want to go back to this for a second, because in Toastmasters we always acknowledge dignitaries, people who are DTMs, people who are past district governors, if they're in attendance. And I've seen it go as far as recognizing other division governors and other area governors. And, you could go right down the line and almost introduce everybody that's in the room. But try to keep that to a minimum. Get the DTMs announced. Get those former district governors announced. And then just say, if you are a division governor or past division governor, stand up, we'll give you a round of applause. If you're an area governor or past area governor, stand up, we'll give you a round of applause. We don't need to this is my own personal preference. You know, I've been at a contest where they spent 20 minutes recognizing dignitaries.
So you've been to one of Colbert's contests, huh?
And that's kind of long, and so, you know, make it short and sweet. It's nice to recognize those GTMs and the district governors, and especially the trio that if they show up at your contests. But other than that, you don't have to. And that's it for my slides.